the first one of these is maybe the most well-known. Didn't come up, obviously, before. Maybe should have, but we can talk about that on the show. And it's called Eaten Alive. It's directed by Umberto Lenzi. Now, Umberto Lenzi, very well-known kind of Italian exploitation director. He directed Cannibal Ferox and Man from Deep River, which we, as I said, talked about before. And this is his other cannibal film that he made. Came out in 1980. It does have a couple of alternative titles, but they're kind of American only. Weird sort of alternative titles that don't really make sense. It's basically, people know it as Eaten Alive.
Yeah, and it's Eaten Alive with an exclamation mark, not to be confused with the Toby Hooper.
Yeah, that's another thing. So again, it's like, hang on, Greg, you've already covered a film called Eaten Alive. What's up with this? So yeah, Toby Hooper's film is called Eaten Alive, but it's also known as Death Trap.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this is literally just known as Eaten Alive. So yes, there was confusion, which is maybe why that one was on section 2 as this one is on section 3. But anyway, Ria, you have the synopsis.
I do.
Not.
Yeah. A young woman works with a mercenary to search for her sister in the jungles of New Guinea, where they find her living with a cult in an area inhabited by cannibals.
Yes. So it's the main kind of story beat of this film is that you've got a woman, her sister has joined this cult in the jungle with a man who is called Jonas, which is not the name I would choose if I was head of a cult, but never mind. This came out in 1980. Now, there was a very kind of important event that happened in the world at 1978, which may have influenced this film somewhat.
Yeah. So about a year later, they were sort of jumping on that hype and using it, which is
very exploitation-y.
Yeah, but more exploitation-y than anything we're going to talk about, really, because it's real
exploitation,
life.
Yeah. So it's the Jonestown Massacre. That's what I'm talking about. So for those of you who don't know, there was a guy called Jim Jones. He was a reverend based in America. He started his own church, and then he and his followers moved out to Guyana in South America to basically move away and start a new life there in the country. Various things happened. There was an actual US senator who went out there to try and rescue some of the people who had been lured into joining this cult, and he died. He was murdered, and everyone in the cult basically did this suicide pact.
Yeah.
Some of them, against their will, let's just put it that way. And if you ever heard the term drinking the Kool-Aid, that comes from that event that happened, basically.
Yeah, shocking.
Yeah.
But it's even more shocking that they've actually used some of the kind of real life facts from it, like about the kids kind of having to go first.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, there's some of that in there. I was expecting more, and then by the time you get to the end of the film, yes, okay, they have stolen that part of the story in there.
Yeah, I have to say I found Jonas's haircut so annoying. He looks like that he should be like another member of Oasis with the Oasis mod haircut going on.
Right.
There's a little blunt fringe. Highly annoying.
Yeah, okay. No, I get that. Yeah, hairstyles are important if you're going to be a cult leader. And it's more about aura. I think he had the aura of a cult leader.
Yeah, I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, so he is played by Ivan Rassimov, who appeared in Lenzi's 2 other cannibal films. This, in a weird way, is kind of like the Avengers of cannibal actors, because you've got Mimi Lai, who is in another film we're going to talk about today, as well as Man from Deep River. She is in that as well. And you've got Robert Kerman from Cannibal Holocaust and Cannibal Ferox, who is in this. So literally everyone who's been in a cannibal film of any kind of note is in this film, basically. But they are not the lead. So the lead actress is Janet Agron, who anyone who's seen City of the Living Dead by Lucio Fulci, she is one of the main actors in that film. So
all the favourites, and another unpaid actor would be J&B Whiskey, because may as well be sponsored by that whiskey brand, because it's just in every single, especially Italian cannibal movie, but every cannibal
film, every Giallo, every Italian film from this period. Yeah, J&B getting this, may as well put the product placement in there. It's hilarious, especially in this film.
I mean, yeah, in this film, he says it's his favourite hobby. I mean, So the lead actress just sort of says that she likes rock music, and he's like, well, I just like drinking whiskey.
That's
So
one of my favourite lines. Just the way. So I saw the English dub version of this.
I didn't. I watched it in Italian with the subtitles, and man, this was hard to dissect.
Yeah, so you missed some cracking lines. So
Ah.
that was one of my favourites. One of my favourites is near the beginning, there is a man killing random people by shooting poison darts at them.
Yeah.
And it does feature a man dressed as Santa Claus trying to give out balloons. He tries to buy a balloon for the children. Like,
Yeah.
it's hilarious. So
well,
outdated.
I mean, it was great because it started in Niagara Falls and then went straight to New York, which is another staple of an Italian cannibal movie, is that they love to start an Italian cannibal movie in New York.
Yeah,
like,
especially Umberto Lenzi. He loves starting his films in New York. It's just Twin Towers. Yeah, there they are.
Yeah, yellow cabs, and funky jazz opening music.
Oh,
it's a staple.
So this film starts. It just starts in Niagara Falls randomly, and then this woman gets killed with a poison dart, and then literally about a second later they're in New York City, and then more people get killed with poison darts. So I was like, wow, what is going on? Like,
but
this
then,
is hilarious.
You know what I realised? Like later on in the movie, are those bodies just transplanted into the jungle? Because they walk into this hut and there are like just two random guys on the floor, just already dead. And I was like, are they supposed to be the ones that they've like poison dart, killed and then brought them over from New York or something?
Who knows? Because this guy just seems to be doing this in public, like no subtlety whatsoever. No members of the public are trying to stop him or anything like that. It's just hilarious.
And then you sort of find out later, because I was like, oh, maybe they've just drugged them and they're going to kidnap them. But no, it's cobra venom that's in that. But we find that out later.
Yeah. And then
there's far too many snakes, like in all of these films. Kind of got sick of writing down like, oh, it's another snake.
Yeah. So I suppose you should say at this point, okay, so we're talking about 3 cannibal films. They're very violent films, they're very gory, not the greatest politics in the world if you're interested in that sort of thing. But yeah, the main thing about these cannibal films is, animals die for real.
Yeah.
It's not great. Mm-hmm. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. It's actually the saddest part of these movies, because on the whole, I really enjoy this like part of the horror genre. I enjoy the cannibal,
It's so unique, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be quite silly. But the thing is that it was very of its time, so now it can come across as sexist, racist, and the saddest part of it is the real animal deaths. It can be really hard to watch sometimes.
Yeah, sure. Although what I would say about this film is most of the animal deaths weren't filmed for this film.
So it's almost like stock footage, isn't it?
Yeah, so some of the animal deaths, because when you watch a lot of these films in one go, you'll kind of, hang on, I've seen this already.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Definitely.
So there's a couple of deaths in this film that I do remember seeing in other films, and it's like, hang on, I've seen this already. So, if you want to take any kind of solace from it, there's only one animal that died in this film that was actually for the film itself, and that's a snake. Snakes always seem to get the worst of it.
Yeah.
In these films, for whatever reason.
They seem to be like disposable, like cannon fodder for for this movie.
And not just these films, there's a film called Calamity of Snakes, which is quite a notorious kind of Hong Kong film where like all these snakes died for real. It's just a ridiculous number of snakes. Yeah. So
I haven't seen that one, but I'll have to add that to the watch list. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, Hong Kong category 3 films are like whole other ball entirely, but yeah.
Well, one part that did shock me, like in the early part of this film, is that part where they do this kind of suspension on the hooks, because you can tell that that's done for real. And also there's a man that's kind of rocking a baby whilst he's suspended on hooks. It's very odd.
Yeah.
Very strange.
What were your thoughts on the film generally?
So generally, I thought that this is kind of up there with Cannibal Holocaust. Like, it's not too different. I actually forgot how difficult these movies are to watch with the animal cruelty. And I always used to be body count or death count girl in the past, and I have brought that back again to this episode. But I decided that body count seems to mean a different thing these days on social media and with the TikTok generation. So I'm now going to be the unalive scribe. So
yeah,
it's very
Gen Z, this one is
date.
for you guys.
Yeah, it's very hipster and up to date. So the unalive scribe. So I have taken the time to document and detail how many deaths per film that we're talking about today. And it is quite surprising that, I mean, there might be some high amounts on this episode, so that will be why it was a difficult watch. So on the whole, I mean, it's difficult to say that I enjoyed it, but I think this is a classic in the genre. It kind of fits well with sort of Cannibal Holocaust and the expectations. And you sort of expect them to be ham and a bit over the top and a bit silly. And I kind of like that about them.
Yeah, so I get where you're coming from. I mean, going back to the animal cruelty aspect for a second, yeah, again, I think the reason I mentioned it in the way I did is more not to hammer home the point. Like, yes, it's bad. It shouldn't have happened. Obviously, it wouldn't happen now. There's not a lot you can do. It's part of the package with these films. But yeah, I agree about it because a lot of the animal cruelty just seems to be for no reason whatsoever. Like, it's just film will happen and then, oh, here's like a snake killing a monkey for no reason, or here's a snake killing a bat for no reason, or, oh, we're going to have a cannibal kill a crocodile and skin it alive and rip its guts out.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't add anything to the story. It's just there for shock value for like no reason. So yeah, the only, not to defend the animal cruelty, but this is kind of one of the reasons that I've always thought Cannibal Holocaust was a bit different, because there was actually a purpose to the animal cruelty in that film.
Yeah.
Which was to make kind of the film crew look more amoral. It kind of fit their characters. Whereas, oh, here's a snake killing a small animal. Here's the natives doing this. And it's like, the main character will just stop and watch, which is how you can tell it's stock footage, by the way. Because if you have people just looking in a different cut and all of a sudden they look really shocked at what they're seeing, yeah, they're not actually looking at anything.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, other than that, I would say I enjoyed this film for the most part. I guess one of the not issues, I suppose, this might be a Umberto Lenzi film, because all his films, what I've noticed about them, like his Hannibal films especially, is the first kind of 20 or 30 minutes of them are very action-packed. Like, so much happens in them.
Yeah.
Like in Cannibal Ferox is the same, Man from Deep River is the same, and in this, it's like, the first 30 minutes, like even before like the main characters get to like this cult compound, so much happens. It's crazy. It's like almost like impossible to keep up with everything that's going on.
That's before they even get to the jungle, right? And like most of what happens is in the jungle. That's like the set piece that we're waiting for. So, I mean, maybe it just literally is that they wanted to shoot in New York and they like the glamour of it. So they're trying to put it to some use. But for me, like, it all really starts when they get to the jungle. We're waiting for that part.
Yeah, sure. And like Mel Ferrer is there randomly, and he ain't going to the jungle. He's like, I'm married to Audrey Hepburn. So it's like, I'm not going to the jungle. No way you getting me doing that. So yeah, maybe he's like, no, I'm only going to do New York. He's there just to deliver exposition, which if you watch it in the English dub is hilarious, because he's talking to Janet Agron, like the main character, and she's asking him all these questions. It's like, so what's that? What does this mean?
Yeah.
So very lazy Italian
exposition.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the dialogue is just so stilted in all of these movies, and the exposition is just so on the nose and so obvious. And part that I found really funny was those quote unquote dope addicts in New York that they went to talk to. The women that just look really well put together and not like dope addicts at all.
And this man randomly comes and slaps her.
Yeah.
As well, just out of nowhere. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and like, yeah, it just says at the end, oh, we might as well go, Sheila, because that's all she knows, and doesn't even defend her. And she's just getting beaten up. They just leave her and they're like, right, we're off to New Guinea. Like, so it's ridiculous.
Yeah. There's a lot of, I would say, what the fuckness about some of the choices in this film. Now, again, not to harp on about this, but the main character and her sister have been given a Southern American accent. So they all talk like this.
Oh, I didn't get the pleasure of listening to that.
Get like an Italian English dub of someone doing an accent like this for the whole film.
Oh my gosh.
So funny, like in places, especially when her and her sister are talking to each other and they both sound like that.
And also not great, like when she mentions where she got the inheritance money from, because her dad had a cotton mill, and then I was like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah. Again, with the southern accent in the dub, it's just not great. I'll just say that much.
Yeah, but very much of its time, like
very
we
much
say.
Of its time. Another thing of its time is there's a scene where the main character. So one of the kind of plot points is that Jonas makes people drink this thing. This, I don't know what, it's a drink that makes them have, I don't know, like not hallucinations, but it kind of puts them under his control.
Yeah.
But it's very inconsistent in like how it works.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So at one point when they're under it, like they won't want to do anything except serve him. But then the next minute they'll be fine. And then like, oh no, I actually want to get away now. And that was just wildly inconsistent.
And then at one point, one of them says, she looks really stoned. And like, so she just looks really spaced out. But then that very quickly changes. And it's like they forgot that they're supposed to be really spaced out as an actor.
Yeah. Or they're just very kind of not very good at acting, just generally. So that's just their default expression. There's a scene where Janet Agron is basically covered in gold body paint.
Except for her face, which is really weird. I mean, kind of creative, but yeah, I think the point of that is just to get her naked again, so.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is the most controversial thing that happens in the film, because there's a lot of controversial things, but there's a scene, I'll just say, that involves a certain sex toy.
Oh, I found that really controversial.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, I know where you're going to put that. And he covers it, in snake blood?
Yeah, cobra blood, yeah.
Can't be too hygienic, I mean.
No.
But yeah, I mean...
But like, she's just fine afterwards?
Yeah, she does scream at the time, but it's kind of done off camera, so I guess it's kind of, done in a way where it's not too gruesome on camera, and they sort of get away with that because it's a bit less in your face than I would have thought, but you know exactly what's occurring. That's a hard part to watch because you know what's going to happen. But the other really difficult part to watch is the monkey being eaten by the snake.
Yeah.
I found that really grim, actually. I was sort of struggling to watch that part.
Yeah, that's hard to watch. And there's rape in it as well, which... again, seems to happen in a lot of these kind of cannibal films. But yeah, I don't know. It kind of comes with the territory again. It's not great. You wouldn't do that now. Like, I suppose with the Green Inferno, I suppose that's one thing you can say about a film like that is like, okay, well,
So with the subtitles, I think they got that part wrong and it comes across even more twisted. So there's that woman who, she's a widow, isn't she? So she's like burying her husband.
Yeah, it's Mimi Lai. So Mimi Lai, her husband has died. She's barely even in this film, if I'm being honest. And then during the funeral, like, her husband's body gets set on fire, which in fairness, the way that scene is done is quite good. It looks cool.
Yeah.
When they're burning his body. But then there's the bit afterwards, which I think you're...
Yeah, and then
like,
when I watched it with the subtitles, they're like, now the three brother-in-laws kind of get to have sex with her, and that's great because it keeps it in the family. And I was like, brother-in-laws?
Yeah.
So they mean the brothers of her
ex-husband.
Yeah. And I was like, brother-in-law, this just sounds so twisted. Like,
yeah, I mean,
it's quite explicit. It gets rougher as it goes along, and she does look very distressed.
I suppose what you might not have, it came across in the dub that Robert Kerman is kind of saying this very kind of tongue-in-cheek. Like, he's kind of almost saying it almost very cynically. He's not really saying it like matter of fact, I'll just say that much. So yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of that type of thing that goes on in the film. One thing I will say is, so this is, a cannibal film. There are cannibals in the film, but they're kind of on the outskirts of like the narrative itself. Most of the narrative is just about, this woman and this guy trying to rescue her sister from this cult. and them kind of getting indoctrinated into the cult, but kind of by their decision because they're trying to rescue the sister and they're kind of planning an escape in that way. And there are cannibals there, but the cannibals only seem to be there as a way to kind of keep people within the compounds so that they don't escape because Jonas knows they'll get killed by the cannibals.
Yeah.
And there is some cannibal stuff at the end of the film. So there is gut munching and all that type of stuff. Breast eating.
Yes. We've seen this before, haven't we? Breast eating in cannibal movies.
Yes, I suppose we have. Yeah.
Cutting off a breast is popular. And you can tell which one the cannibals are because they're wearing like dusty black wig.
Yeah. And there's the favourite, particularly in Umberto Lenzi cannibal films, of the man getting his penis cut off.
Oh, yeah, they went there.
Yes. Which apparently is from another film, which I don't remember because it's been a long time since I've seen it. Apparently that scene happens in Mountain of the Cannibal God and they just spliced it in.
Yeah, I sort of remember that, but like you say, it's been a while since I've watched that. But yeah, it's definitely a running theme through cannibal movies.
Yeah, and there's a lot of the animal cruelty, as I said before, has been spliced in from other films. And even the score, there's parts of this score, because it's the same composer as Cannibal Ferox, where I was like, I've heard this before. I think I've heard this, And it's like, yeah, it's this whole bits of music from the Cannibal Ferox score, because it came out the same year. I assume they were just being a bit lazy. Because you could get away with it in those days, because I think they just assumed these films would never be available for like home viewing, only in the cinema. And people, these Italians, they're not going to care if I just use this same bit of music in two films. But
saving a bit of money, padding it out. To be fair, the music is pretty damn catchy and really good in this movie. I mean, not like really good as in high quality movie, but I find it fun. I think it's really enjoyable.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. But like the cannibals themselves, my point I was trying to make is more they don't feel like they need to be there as such.
Yeah.
Because it almost feels like in I don't know, The Beyond, for example, how there are zombies there, where it's not really a zombie film, but it's more like the producers wanted zombies in that film, so Fulci just had to put like a whole zombie invasion in there.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a case with producers of this where like, oh, you have to put cannibals in this film when the script probably didn't have them originally. Maybe. Yeah. I'm just thinking.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. I don't know. I mean, sometimes they just do it by the title, don't they? Marketing will think of the title that will sell and they'll go with
Eaten
that.
Alive is a very lurid title. I'll say that much. It's a good title.
They were heavy on their lurid titles back then, and sometimes that dictated the plot. But you are right. It feels like there was a lot going on before the cannibals even come into it. It's like very front loaded with like what, the plot and the story.
Did you find it useful as, part of your research into movies about cults?
Yeah, so at the moment I'm writing my third feature film, and I'm writing another horror movie, and it is focused on cults and satanic cults. So I won't say any more than that. But yeah, I did find this quite useful. And I think in terms of all the movies that we've watched with this podcast, I found it to be sort of up there in like quality and sort of things in there that you might watch that you won't see in other movies. Up there with like Cannibal Holocaust. I felt like it was, it was interesting to watch, and I'm glad that I watched it. I didn't detest it. I found it quite like fun, and that's a weird word for a cannibal movie. But as you know, Greg and I do find it fun to watch extreme horror movies. So yeah.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Like, if you ignore the stuff that really isn't fun, yeah, there are things to kind of enjoy and kind of laugh at. They're a bit silly. I think the pacing is a bit weird in the film. Like, it's very front loaded. So, like I said, about a million things happen in the first 30 minutes, and then the film kind of calms down.
Yeah.
Like, if I was writing a film, I certainly wouldn't put this much stuff in it. I'd maybe, like I said, kind of take the cannibals out of it. But yeah, I think the film's quite fun. Quite a lot happens. It's not boring.
Yeah,
definitely.
And it's kind of quotable as well. Like, it's got lots of silly quotes in it. Like my favorite quote in this movie is, "Look, lady, this part of the world is known for two things: crazy religions and the clap."
That is in the dub.
I also really loved, did you see the hospital at the end where Sheila's gone, she's like staying in the hospital, recovering from the whole ordeal, and it's called Hospital for Special Surgery. And obviously Mark goes to visit because they've got this whole love thing going on all the way through, where there were parts of it where I was like, I kind of like them both now. I sort of want them both to get together, but then he can just be a bit of a dick, really, can't he?
Yeah, there's a scene like before they reach the cult compound where like they're doing this thing that only happens in Italian films where they'll argue, he'll slap her, backhand and everything, and then they'll just start kissing.
Yeah.
And it's like, like calm down, woman.
Fiery Italian temperament.
Yes. I know it.
So, an interesting one. Do you want the roundup of the deaths?
Yes, please.
So I estimate that, I'm going to count them as on-screen deaths. So there are some that are implied that we don't see, but I'm not going to count those. So I think that there are 33 deaths.
Wow.
But then at the end as well, they sort of say on the news that there are 70 deaths in the Jonestown kind of situation.
Yeah.
In the village, but we don't see them all. We only see 9 of those as an example, So if we totaled that up, it would be around 94 if you added the 70 on at the end.
That's a lot of deaths. And is that people deaths or are there animals in there as well?
So all kinds of deaths. So
living things, basically.
Yeah, if I list off quickly the 33 of what you kind of get here, you get a cobra death, an alligator, monkey, a man on a canoe, a random man in a forest who we just see his decapitated head, another man in a forest killed with a machete, a woman, a snake killed by a weasel. I think it's a weasel. I don't know what that animal's called.
Yeah, sure.
It has another specific name, but it looks like a weasel. A cannibal, a cobra, a snake, another cannibal, 3 more snakes, 1 more alligator, another cannibal, a Komodo dragon, a hawk, another cannibal. Diana, she dies. The widow, Mawara, another cannibal, and then 9 people in the village at the end. So it comes to around 33.
Yeah, a lot of those deaths that happen at the end where people have taken the quote-unquote Kool-Aid or whatever and they start dying. It could be any number, to be honest. But
yeah. So I think of the ones we're going to cover this episode, that is actually the highest. That is actually the highest death count for this episode. And that it scores quite high compared to any that we watched, to be honest. A lot happens in this movie.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you are a fan of these films, you've seen Cannibal Holocaust maybe, and maybe you've seen Cannibal Ferox, and you want like other cannibal films to watch, I would probably put this in my top 5.
Yeah.
In terms of kind of, cannibal films to watch. Because as I say, look, it's not boring.
Yeah.
There's entertainment to be, gotten out of it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, so I mean, where can you get this if you want to watch it? Because we've watched it, so you don't have to if you don't want to, but you might want to see what we've described.
So if you want to watch Eaten Alive, you have a few different options. So if you want to watch it on streaming, which I think seems to be the way that people tend to want to watch their films these days, you can watch it on Tubi. But very specifically, it has to be the American Tubi. So if you are a member of Tubi like me and you have a VPN, I mean, if you live in America, obviously you don't have this problem. It may be available in other territories as well, but I just know for a fact it's definitely available in America because that's how I watched it. So, you can watch it on Tubi. And it's also available, if you're a physical media person, you can buy it on 4K and Blu-ray in a sort of a special edition multi-pack thing from Severin, and that is region free. So anywhere you are in the world, you can buy that. Now, another thing that we kind of used to do on the show that I'm tempted to bring back is I used to ask for these films, for these video nasties, should this in fact have been a video nasty? But because we're talking about section 3 video nasties, we have a slightly different take on it. So, Ria, I'm going to ask you, should this have been a video nasty at all? And if so, should it have been a section 2 or a section 3?
I'm going to say absolutely yes, and I think it should have been a section 2 because it's kind of on par with Cannibal Holocaust in terms of gore, death, and animal cruelty.
Yeah, I am going to agree with that. Yeah, for the animal cruelty by itself, really, I'm just shocked it wasn't a section 2 at all.
Yeah,
Because of
pretty much.
the three films that we're talking about today, this one has the quote unquote worst stuff in it.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a family-friendly movie. You would not want to leave this playing and risk the kids, watching this for sure.
Yeah. I agree as well. I think what happened is the Tobe Hooper film, Eaten Alive, I think was confused for this film. So when the DPP decided to kind of put the other film on the list, they meant to put this one, they just didn't.
Wow.
So hence why the confusion.
I think you're right. They could have gotten them mixed up, to be honest.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me, bureaucracy being what it is. They don't attract the smartest people in the world, let's put it. So that's a fun one to start off with.